At the time, I thought it was my condition that was making me suicidal, but when I look back now, I realize that this is just a side effect. I mean, they can talk about the side effects, they can talk about, the positive effects of these medications, but if they've not even taken one of these pills, what clue do they have about what they're prescribing and what effect it can have on people? Hi guys, hope you're well. So, really cool stuff. I'm actually at a Ayurvedic healing resort in India. So I know some of you guys might know, but my parents were born in India. When I was very young, I used to visit India a lot. And it's been about 6 years since probably 6 or 7 years since I've actually been to India. And yeah, finally got around to it and have been taking in some healing in very beautiful scenic surroundings, and trying to kind of educate myself on certain Ayurvedic practices as well, that I'm hoping to actually bring into two paths and give you guys some videos on as well. India is the hub of a lot of this, naturopathic Ayurvedic healing practices that have been, very powerful for centuries, and it's a great place to learn as well. I will try to make more content while I'm here, and I hope you guys will appreciate that, because I really think it will be very beneficial. So getting to the point of this video, so as I mentioned, we have a series now of Q&As. These are based on questions that you've been asking in the comment section, and questions that a lot of my clients that I work with often ask when they first start in the program with me. And one of the top questions that comes up regularly is, can you heal whilst on prescription medication? Okay, this is obviously not a straightforward black and white situation. Everybody's situation is slightly different, but I'm going to give you my general thoughts on this, on the whole aspect of that. And this is based off my experience and what I've seen with my clients. And obviously, people in the comment section and the whole, chronic illness community, the kind of feedback that I've had from that as well. So just to give you a bit of background, when I was going through my illness, I, as many people, trusted my doctor, went straight to a couple of different doctors, everything from a multiple sclerosis specialist to a psychotherapist. And I quickly learned that the only real toolbox that they had was actually pills and medication. There was nothing else that they could offer me apart from certain medications that had very generic effects on the body and a lot of very, very nasty side effects. So the actual medications that I was put on at the time were some SSRIs. I was on benzodiazepine, and thanks to those really, really smart, intelligent folks over at the Visual Snow Initiative, I was put on Lamictal. And I recall going through the initial terror of my symptoms, and as a lot of you guys are probably going through yourselves, in terms of that horror of dealing with your symptoms. You just kind of want a quick fix, and you see a doctor, and it'd be so easy to just take a pill and for all this to go away. You have that hope in your mind that that's the way it's going to happen. It very rarely happens like that. In my case, it made me significantly worse. I went from being pretty traumatized by all of my symptoms, but to a point where it was more a case of I was sad and depressed, and I knew I had to do something about my symptoms. However, I was just confused and a little bit all over the place, to when I started on medication. Now looking back, I realized that the medication took me to a whole new level of terror. I mean, I was going through withdrawals from benzodiazepine, and this is from pretty much the first few days of taking these pills that my doctor at the time said had worked for his clients, which I very much doubt. And the withdrawal symptoms just from actually starting those in between dosages, now I look back, were actually what were responsible for giving me very, very suicidal thoughts, almost suicidal impulses. And what I would say to a lot of you guys who are in the chats and you are feeling suicidal. At the time, I thought it was my condition that was making me suicidal. But when I look back now, I realize that this is just a side effect. If you look on the side of the box of these pills, one of the side effects is suicidal thoughts. And they can be extremely strong thoughts as well. I'm not going to lie to you. So that was my experience with the first medications that I took. And then at the time, I didn't really realize that it was the medication that was doing this to me. I thought it was the condition and my own brain, my own thoughts that were creating these really desperate, dark ways of thinking. But looking back now, I firmly believe the medication had a pivotal role in all that. And then moving on, at the time I also did anti-epileptics, which I had no business taking. I mean, these were some seriously heavy-duty drugs that, have so many negative impacts on the body. It's just unbelievable. I mean, one of the side effects of lamictal is death. You can actually get a severe rash. It's rare, but it can happen where you can get a severe rash, and that's it. Your skin will just start flaking off, and you'll be practically burned to death from the inside. So that's kind of a nice effect of that anti-epileptic that the Visual Snow Initiative were pushing back in the day. All those really smart guys over at the Visual Snow Initiative. So yeah, that was quite an experience. And what I would say is that, knowing what I do now, there are a lot of effects that a lot of medication has on parts of the body, especially the gut area. They tend to wreck the gut. and this can be from everything from kind of, birth control pills to, it's not just, confined to the pills that I took. I mean, if you look at the side effects of a lot of these pills, you'll find that a lot of the time people have gut issues. And when you actually understand the relationship between the gut and the brain, the fact that the gut is the second brain, most of the neurotransmitters are actually created in the gut, and you have the gut-brain axis. So everything that's happening in your gut is very much related to what's happening in your brain. Adding toxic elements to that situation is going to be pretty disastrous on top of the symptoms that you have already. So there's pretty clear data on this, and I think it's one of those things where as more and more studies come out, we're going to realize that a lot of these pills were placebo at best. I mean, there's already studies out there that have clarified that, where certain groups were taking pills and other people were not, were given a placebo pill, and there were very, very limited differences in either test group. So I'll let you figure out why we are always seem to be pushed pills as a first kind of resort. I have my theories around that. I just firmly believe that a lot of doctors, that's all they have. I mean, it's not their fault, it's what they've been taught. But that's the only toolkit they have. They don't have any other toolkit apart from giving you some medication that at best is going to work placebo, maybe reduce inflammation a little bit, but in the long term, the effects can be extremely devastating. So that is my opinion based on my personal experience. They are nothing more than a temporary band-aid. And if you really want to get to the root of your problems, you really need to look deeper and heal at a deeper level, okay? Can you still heal while you're taking these meds? I believe it makes it harder. And that's what you'll find is a lot of people with, Lyme disease, mold, visual snow, tinnitus, etc. How many times have you heard that these people have gone on these pills and they've taken them and they've seen remarkable improvements in some cases, but as soon as they go off, their symptoms ratchet out of control and they're in a much, much worse place than when they started. That is a very common story that I have. So one of the things that we do at TUPAS, the first thing that I do is when I'm working with my patients, a lot of my patients come to me on certain medications, is we will work out a plan and we'll do it extremely safely, right, with the agreement of their doctors as well, if they're still under the care of a doctor. Our goal is to, as part of the program, wean them off their medication as well. because, you know, what I'm interested in is the long-term progress of my patients. It's about making sure that things do not relapse, that, you know, they're not actually gonna be sicker later down the road. You know, we have to get to the roots of this. And I think, you know, in a lot of cases, prescription pills, they just add another level of complexity and another wall to the solution. So yeah, there's that. Also, I would also say that, you know, a lot of these doctors who prescribe these medications, like how many of them have actually taken those medications, right? I mean, they can talk about the side effects, they can talk about positive, you know, the positive effects of these medications, but if they've not even taken one of these pills, what clue do they have about what they're prescribing and what effect it can have on people, right? It just makes no sense. Just think about it. Like, would you go to a doctor who's prescribing you something and that person has never ever taken that pill? That's just madness, you know? And looking back now, it's the clarity that I have now. But at the time I was desperate, like many of you were. You kind of trust people and you do anything. So a pill seems like the easiest solution. But, you know, looking back, you know, it's madness. Like it's absolute craziness. You know, some of the actions there. So in terms of, in summary, as I said, I think they definitely hinder recovery, and the best effects that I've seen with my patients is when we've slowly started to wean them off medication. And a lot of the time they see real improvements from just that. It's actually amazing. But if you do that and at the same time, right, strengthen the immune system, do a lot of the exercises and a lot of the stuff that you'll find in the free healing toolkit, you know, start working on your mental health, use nature to heal you, which is one of the biggest aspects that I talk about in my channel. And together with a lot of other stuff that we discuss at Two Paths, you know, the two things together, weaning off prescription medication and adding a lot of the natural healing methods that we use, that is when the body starts to regain some balance. Okay, so I hope that helps, guys, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.